Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific. Just wanted to update my opinions on things. The Malaysian jetliner that was blown out of the sky yesterday was ridiculous. Now they're thinking it was rebels. I want to know what it is about people that think they're so macho in the middle of their own problems, fighting for whatever reason, think that it's necessary to shoot down a jetliner that poses no threat to them. Sounds to me like somebody needs to go and kick somebody's butt. My condolences for the survivors, family members that have to endure such grief. That plane was blown to bits. Crazy. Malaysia's had enough trouble. They never did find that other jetliner. I still wonder what happened to that, and I think it's interesting that a lot of us run away with a bunch of wild ideas, but there are still places one can go and not be found. I'm glad for that, but I have a hard time swallowing, where did that other jetliner go? Why can't they find it? Obviously now, the transponders and all that, and the little pings and all that from black boxes have long ago silenced. It'd be interesting if they ever find it. I wanted to comment on Israel again. I noticed that the news is making it a point to put it in our face how many Palestinians are killed. It is Pacific's express opinion that the evening news is always biased against Israel. I find that very hypocritical and interesting. The people that work for the evening news in the United States of America need to wake up. Being friends with the Palestinians, being friends with the terrorists is not going to give them any more job security or protection if they were to ever take over the United States. I have watched for years as Israel has shown restraint upon restraint upon restraint. And I'm glad to see that Israel said, you know what, Obama, screw you. We're going to take care of our own problems. Now they're looking, or they started the other day, a ground invasion. I think it's interesting, and I think it's noteworthy that people need to look at the sheer fact that for a country as tiny as Israel, that whenever something goes on over there, it dominates the news. I know why that is. The secularists don't, and they'll deny every bit of this. God's word is very clear. I will make Jerusalem a stumbling stone. I will bring all nations against Jerusalem to fight against it. God has made it crystal clear in his word that he is not done with the Jewish person. He is not done with the nation of Israel. And it's interesting that the news always focuses, on the Israeli dilemma. Why is that? Because Satan wants to destroy it. Satan attacks it. And now we have born-again Christians in the United States saying such ridiculous, unfounded, and untrue statements such as, the promises for Israel are no longer for them, they're for the church. That is wrong teaching. If one cannot read Zechariah, the minor prophets, Daniel, Revelation, and clearly see that God is going to deal with Israel again in the future to attempt to get them towards national repentance. Zechariah says 1/3 of Israel will be saved. 2/3 is not going to. Pacific's express stance is, I am for Israel. Let me give a caveat. By this, I am not saying that every Jew does the right thing. By this, I am not saying that Israel does everything always perfectly. But let me say this. Our news media has so much lied to us and painted a picture of the poor Palestinians. The poor Palestinians who take their own children and use them as human shields, while the so-called Palestinian men, and they're not men, they're cowards and chickens, to use their children, stand behind their children and loft rockets and shrapnel and all kinds of things in Israeli territory. Palestinians, if you want to be men, stop using your children as shields. Give me a break. 99.9% of the news in America makes it a point. Look at how many Palestinians are killed. The same evening news will not make any issue whatsoever and highlight the untold numbers of Palestinian backpack bombers that get on buses, that blow up synagogues, that blow up shopping malls. And I know some of my viewers are what I would call anti-Semitic. I don't approve. I've heard enough crap about Israel growing up. I heard the Jewish jokes over and over and over. I know the Jews aren't perfect. I know many of the Jews are in our media and vote Democrat and favor big corporations and pull down big money, and there's a lot of problems in that camp. I'm aware of that. But I watch Israel over and over show restraint that the U.S. would never show for the stuff that Israel endures. And for other nations' leaders to tell Israel what to do, I have to laugh and go, are you serious? Barack Obama's drowning in his own egotistical ridiculousness. While 77,000 people march across the Mexico border into the U.S. every day, while no jobs have been created, while our deficit continues to rise, while Obamacare has not, is not, and will not work, Obama's the worst president ever to run America. And the thing that really bothers me is for Barack Obama or any other leader to tell Israel what to do or what not to do. I have to go, are you serious? Barack Obama needs to clean up our own playground instead of worrying about what others are doing. And I'm going to say enthusiastically and vociferously, I support Israel and their right to say, Hamas, we've had enough. Anybody, any evening news, anywhere in the world that can defend the actions of something like Hamas needs to check their brain. Hamas is a terrorist organization. And I'm going to say something about the people in the Middle East. Terrorists are cowards and chickens. They blow themselves up so they don't have to face the music and the consequences. Just like the idiots yesterday that shot down a jetliner. How cowardly is that? 298 people on a flight, no threat to these jokers on the ground, and let's blow up a jetliner. And nobody has shown up and said, I did this. I make no bones about it. I wish they would find out what rebel group did it and drop a bomb flat square on them and say, you think that's funny? You're done. Iraq. ISIS has taken over. And the comment was made when Bush went in that we're going to have to always maintain a presence there. Otherwise, the same thing will happen again. And they were right. Now the U.S. chooses to do nothing. Sometimes I wonder about the U.S., and I'm telling you that my express stance right now is we should not be involved in this stuff because we got enough problems right here. We cannot afford to be sending money and troops and getting involved in this stuff. But at the same time, we told everybody we wanted democracy in the Middle East, and we're not doing a good job of upholding it. Syria's got trouble. Ukraine's got trouble. And I think it's interesting that we got a lot of pots boiling over on the other side of the world. I want to say something about the Israeli thing, because some of my own viewers are ignorant. You need to read publications that are put together by accurate reporting. Reporting that has been done in such a way that other groups outside of that have watched them and said they're telling the truth. I find it interesting that when we talk about persecution and we talk about the African American dynamic in the U.S. and the African Americans, I'm going to say it just like it is. We still have people in America blaming the whites, still playing victim to the slave days that are long gone. And I'm going to say something bold. Out of every race in the world, the Jews have been persecuted, harassed, hounded, and driven out of their own country more than the Africans ever have and will endure, hands down. The Bible is very clear. Satan hates Israel. Satan hates it, hates it, hates it. Human nature is such, they don't like the fact that God had a chosen people. They don't like it, but that's God's choice. Israel rejected the Messiah, we know that. Israel cut off the Messiah, we know that. But Israel's paying dearly for that. Their own struggle continues. And for my readers, my viewers, and for those that claim to read the scriptures, let me remind you of something that the tribulation is called. For the time of Jacob's trouble has come. Why is it called the time of Jacob's trouble? Because Jacob was renamed Israel, struggles with God. That tells me right there God is not done with Israel, and if people are that ignorant, continue to read Revelation. The city was split into 3 parts, Jerusalem. Christ's feet will stand on the Mount of Olives at the end. There's so much in there. And for any Bible scholar and any modern day Christian in America or anywhere else that can sit there and tell me that the promises are no longer for Israel, I'd like them to come up with a logical explanation of all these judgments that come down. And then you go to Zechariah and it says, and they will look on me whom they have pierced, and there will be weeping. Sound Bible scholars have said that God is going to get Israel's attention and people are going to wake up and say, we missed the Messiah. He already came. Let me make it very crystal clear. The nations are not going to go fight up against America, Russia, China. They're going to go fight against Jerusalem. That's what the Bible says. And you know what? The Bible's track record's been very good so far. I think I'm going to believe in that instead of the evening news. I want to thank some of my viewers that pull out facts and things that I'm not aware of. The gentleman who talked about Hitler's regime and all the homosexuals within the midst. I never knew that. It's interesting when you watch American media and you watch a show like The View, and I am going to attack The View. That is a good barometer of how silly and superficial and how vain American people have become. When I look at feminism and I look at American women and then I see shows hosted by big-breasted bimbos that are paid way too much money, telling us 9 things we need to know, it's disgusting. I can't watch that show. I don't know how women like that exist. I went with my friend yesterday to Cherry Creek Mall and I really paid attention to women. I was dragged into Victoria's Secret and Pink and everywhere else with my friend who was buying bras and panties. And I was like, oh gosh. But you know what? I watched women and I thought, if you want to do an interesting study, and I'm going to say something, if Cherry Creek Mall were to completely shut down, it would have absolutely no effect on Pacific. There's not one store in there that I buy anything at. And I started thinking and watching women carrying their bags of junk around. I looked at the way women were dressed. One woman who was old had these big, floppy, open sleeves hanging, and the short hem on that was where her butt cheeks were hanging out. And I thought, lady, you're in your 50s. She thought she was hot. Women with no bra and these new dress, almost dress style shirts, whatever, where you can see everything. And I thought, why don't women, instead of just teasing men, why don't they just walk around with no shirt and bra? I mean, I'm not being crude here, but it's like, if you feel the need to show that, why don't you just strip it all off? That women like to tease people is obvious. And as I walked through with my friend, and I love my friend, but I don't have these kinds of conversations with her. Women really have bought into the consumeristic lie. I saw so many good-looking girls. I saw one, she had a sleeveless shirt on, and you could tell her breasts were pressed up so much that there was a line right here because her breast was in an unnatural place. And I thought, what possesses women to be so caught up in the flim and the flam? And they're not interested in any of us guys. And you go, what is the obsession with women to be so caught up in their looks all the time? I looked at store after store that sells high-end women's products. And I admit, I'm not a woman, and I go, why do women pay for all this stuff? And I thought, women shop on emotion. They have been convinced by CEOs and corporate gurus, you must have this stuff. I think of my friends over in Asia. I think of Indokita, who does not wear makeup, or lipstick, or eyeliner. And I look at American women obsessed with themselves. I wanted to be in the company of my friend, but I thought, shopping is really boring. Let's go take our hard-earned money and go to this store and buy this and go to that store and buy that and flake through them all. I went to Starbucks yesterday. She bought a lemonade tea drink, $3. She said it tasted like water. She said I should have bought a Frappuccino. Starbucks is booming all the time. And can I be honest with you? I look at all those ding-dong girls walking around with all their bags of junk. I watched a group of teenage girls walk by me, every one of them dressed slutty. Shirts that hang down over their breasts, that ride just over the breast, this midriff showing. And it does anger me. Girls today dress like sluts. Girls today don't have taste. They don't know how to do themselves justice. I walked into different stores. I saw a nice necklace, $40. And it was a little rope that goes through a button, and it was already frayed. And I thought, wow, $40 for that? It had all the metal blings and the neat little pendants and ornaments on it. And I thought, why didn't they just put a metal chain on that? I wouldn't buy it. A cute little kind of like bowler hat, $50. T-shirts, $24 a piece. I go to the thrift store, $1.99. It finally dawned on me more and more, women buy on emotion. Victoria's Secret. Panties so thin that if you're not careful putting them on, you could tear them. nothing but lace. And I thought, what is the purpose of all this stuff? Is it just me, males? Or there's a lot of women's fashion getting out of control? I thought the Filipinas in Hong Kong dressed so cute. I thought the Asian women dressed so cute. And I look at America just gobbling up all this sameness culture. I look at women that will spend all day walking with their girlfriends, shopping, shopping, shopping. And I think, man, there's no substance to these people. Nothing. And we guys are wired, gosh, she's cute. Look past the looks. A lot of these young women, they don't know what hard work is. They don't have a bank account. They don't have enough wherewithal to have any intelligent, reasonable conversation beyond the flaky. And I know I'm pretty hard on the whole shopping environment. I'm pretty hard on it. And I look at a lot of women that are good looking and they're showing their cleavage and their faces are pensive and they're rude. And they think they're all that in a bag of chips. And I go, are you happy? And the answer is no. It does seem that most women in our culture today are on full tilt rebellion. Worshipping themselves, spending all their money on themselves, and dressing in a provocative way. And I go, and why? You're not interested in us men. Why do you dress like that? Is it to attract other women? Is it because you're in love with yourself? Back to the news media. The news media and a show like The View caters to that silly, lame culture. The news media likes to point out about the discrepancies among Christians and preachers, of which I do as well. But that same news media will not reveal to you how much salaries they get for what? Reporting triteness? We're going to tell you about Angelina Jolie is bisexual. We're going to tell you that Brad Pitt left. We're going to tell you that Gomez broke up with Bieber and got a new tattoo. As if we've got serious crisis in the world. How many of those girls walking through the mall care that a Malaysian jetliner was blown out of the sky yesterday? How many? How many of them even care or have any idea what is going on in Israel with Hamas and what Israel's trying to do? I remember when I was a kid, I was told that girls mature faster than boys, and I'm going to say something. In what way? Because they grow breasts and go through puberty faster? Certainly not up here. Out of the sexes, I find girls to be the most selfish, hands down, in Western cultures. I'm getting an increasing number of Australians themselves telling me that they're tired of their obnoxious Aussie women. I don't care much for Aussie women. I had my fill of them in Hong Kong. There were some that were nice to me and hired me to walk their dogs. But most of them, just as bad as here, stuck up, loud in the marketplace, talking loud in their accent and thinking they were so special. And I do put the boot in on white women. It seems that everywhere I go, white women think that they're the top of the pack. I see that all the time. White women think everything they do and everything they say is so important. Yeah. Pacific gets tired of all this. It's funny, I was looking at the men because I was getting stared at a lot. Yesterday, I'll tell you about something when I left the mall. I noticed the men. They buy the trendy clothes, and I looked at the men and I thought they just don't look like men anymore. Standing there holding all the shopping bags and buying their overpriced stuff, and I looked at them and they buy the Izod or the lacrosse shirts and the Lacoste or whatever the store is called. Men just don't look like men anymore. They've been tamed and groomed by their women. But watch out when they get behind the wheel of their SUV. Yesterday we left the mall. They're doing construction down on University Boulevard. I'm in the proper lane, the right lane ends, and of course everybody's got to pass everybody and rudely cut in. And I hate that. I will tell you on a human level, I hate that. You can't put your turn signal on and humble yourself and wait for one of us to let you in, which is more likely to happen. And I realize Colorado's got a problem. I put my turn signal on in my truck or a bus and nobody lets you in. They're just rude. This guy in an SUV roars up there, right to the digital sign that says, move over. No turn signal, and sits there. And I admit, I get human too. I'm like, he's just sitting there, no turn signal. I don't know what he's doing. Well, I know what he's doing, but I keep moving forward. My friend's sitting next to me, and I see him cran his head all the way out the window, give me the dirty look. He pulls up another couple feet, and then he pushes the front end of his SUV, starts to encroach. I continue to roll forward. And I was watching the car in front of me. And then my friend, as soon as we got to the point where it's like, no, you know what? You're not going to shove in like that. And I didn't make eye contact with him. Light turned green, traffic moves, I pull forward, and the guy, my friend says, what is that guy's problem? He just flipped you off. I said, oh, did he? And I just went out my back window. And I saw him in his SUV giving me the tough. And I'm not going to tell you that Pacific handled himself, but I mouthed the words, F you, where he could see me in my rearview mirror. And I want to know what it is about males that they all think they can take me on and think they're so tough. What is that about males in our society? Do you think because your lane ends that you have a right to just cut off everybody, no turn signal? You know, the law says. But no. If I was in that lane yesterday and I got myself screwed up and stuck in there and I put my turn signal on, I'm one of those that will wait. And if 10, 15 cars aren't going to let me in, then I will gently, with turn signal, start slowly moving. Just slight, start to encroach on that lane. And women will still keep going. It's like, wow. But this guy, no turn signal. He just roars up and he just turns. And he's going to bully his way through. And I look at American men and I comment on this because it's like, do you think that we're going to respect that? You know what's funny? If he had put a turn signal on and just waited there like I do, I would have said, come on. I am more likely to be nice to somebody who does it the right way and shows respect. In fact, I do let them in when I see them humbling themselves. But I was guilty. But God got a hold of me yesterday. Because even though the guy was a complete idiot, I felt God say, Pacific, was that necessary? And I fought in myself, said, yeah, it was. The guy's a jerk. They think they can just cut me off. I'm sorry, I'm in my truck. I used to look at a truck like I have and think, you don't want to screw with a guy in a truck like that with the sound that my truck has got. These spackies in their SUVs, nothing scares them. They're going to take on everybody. I'm the man. because you don't know how to drive your SUV. But after I dropped her off and I went home, I kneeled by my bedside and I said, God, I sinned. The guy's an idiot, but I shouldn't do that. Where's the grace of God in my life? Let the fool in. At least he's ahead of you. But there's a part of me. Can I admit that, man? There's a part of me that has testosterone. I'm tired of getting crapped on. I'm tired of people thinking, there's some four-eyed freak. I can just be rude. And I don't know what's going through their mind. They'll do it to a guy that's 6'4" and full of muscle. American men have a big problem in this society. They don't know how to follow the rules. They won't follow the rules, and they won't humble themselves. I look at American men in Colorado, and they will not use their turn signal. I'll see business class dweebs with their suits and ties and their little white Muranos haul butt in a right lane. Lane ends 100 feet. No signal, and they'll just go thump, and cut somebody off, and then somebody honks and they think they're brave to do this. And no offense, but when he flipped me off with a girl sitting next to me, I thought, you really are a slime ball. How do you know I don't just pull out a pistol and go, you want to flip me off? People are stupid. Really stupid. Now I get mad when I'm sitting there waiting and I've got a turn signal on and car of woman after woman after woman will not let me in. And I have a process that I use. I don't cut off people. I don't bully. Like, sheesh, 10 cars have gone by and this is ridiculous. I'll move my truck over 2 inches, 2 inches, 2 inches. Cars keep coming. But usually there's a point that I get where somebody will stop and I'll put my hand out the window. Thank you. But it told me about my own immaturity and my own insecurity. The truth was told in my mind. The guy's an idiot. He doesn't think he has to follow the rules, and, well, I got in the wrong lane, but it's my turn to move over and move out of my way. Now, how about if you put on a turn signal? How about if you let us know what you're doing? And then you got a cut in front of people. His turn signal went on after the fact. But that is where I need to grow. Because when I get in my truck, I've had enough of the crap in the bus, and I have to be professional. But in my truck, the gloves are off. It's like, hey, you know what? I'm going to lay on that horn, and I'm not going to play games with you. But yet I still felt convicted that how much energy did you take? Versus letting the a-hole go. He finally backed off. He sat there with that tough look, and I told my friend what had happened. I said, well, he didn't want to put on his turn signal and do it the right way and was trying to bully in front of me, and I thought, no. She knew he was in the wrong. But as a Christian, I felt the conviction that you're doing just like the world you live in. Let him go. Let him be arrogant. You know the Bible verse, pride goeth before fall. Let him keep doing that. Let him do that with a semi-truck. I have an insecurity in me, viewers, and I'm going to admit it. I grew up most of my life seeing injustice. And I was abused. I was blamed for so much stuff I didn't do. And I have a problem at 48 years old. When I see something go down that's rude, I go, they're not going to get caught for it. And there's a part of me that says, I want to make it known that you're being a jerk. And I have to tell myself, you're not going to teach that idiot a lesson at all. His ego is running at 5,000 RPMs, and you're going to put your ego against that fool? Why do we men do that? That's testosterone, and we all have it. Because we men have been taught that to just lay down like a wilted flower in a summer hot scorching wind is not cool. And yet, What does the Bible say? Turn the other cheek. You see, it's been inbred in me. Hey, I have rights as an American. Don't you trample on mine. I have a very strong sense of justice. That's why I can get angry when a jetliner is shot out of the sky. That's why I get angry when people are saying the poor Palestinians. Well, the poor Palestinians need to stop shooting and blowing up stuff and being rude. And that is something that angers me about our evening news. Is they want to spin doctor something and make these poor Palestinians look like the victims and refuse to talk about the atrocities they commit every day using their children as human shields. What man in America would put their little child out in front of them and then bully people? That's not acceptable. Why is it acceptable in the Middle East? Trust me, Pacific gets mad in traffic. And you know, I prayed something last night. I said, God, I love to drive, but it is very rude out there. Women are less likely to let me in traffic in my truck or my bus than other males. I do find that interesting. It is the men who will stop and let me in. And whenever I've let a woman in, 9 times out of 10, she won't even bother to say thank you. Won't do it. Unfrickin' believable. This is not me making this up. I've talked to other drivers and they've said the same thing. So where are we at? It's simple. We live in a messed up day. And we can't change people on the road. We can't change other people. But I did a simple analysis of myself and the way I handled that yesterday and thought, what did you accomplish? Did you really win? You think that guy learned a lesson yesterday? Do you really think he's going to go out tomorrow and change? When God teaches a lesson, that's when people get it. We have scriptural examples. Nebuchadnezzar learned real quick as he walks around in his arrogance. Look at all this that my hands have made. And God says, got milk? You can become like a cow. And there he is, grazing on grass. That's not a fairy tale. So Pacific has to say it's not your job to humble people. It's God's job to humble people. Next time you see the fool, let him in. Let him in. Let him go do that to somebody else who doesn't take too kindly to it. Let them get into it. You expended energy. You got tensed up. And you showed an unchristian witness by responding like that. Not cool. And I said, God, do you think that one day you could put me in a place where I can kind of get out of this grind? And I admit another insecurity. It finally dawned on me, I like people, but I don't feel comfortable in a mall. People are there to spend money, and most of what I see in Cherry Creek is unnecessary. Whether it's Macy's, Nordstrom's, the prices of things are ridiculous. And I go, gosh, people go in and just plunk this money down. And they do. And out of all the money that girls spend on making themselves look better, what's missing? Expensive nail polishes, expensive bras and panties, $26 for a pair of panties that's lacy thin, that if I were to just pull on it would tear apart. $26. I make $15 an hour. I'd have to work 1 hour for a pair of thin panties if I was a girl. It doesn't make sense to me. No wonder girls want guys with money so that they can afford to buy all that crap. You know, I'm learning as I get older. Indokita told me that the clothes she wears are hand-me-downs or from thrift stores. You know, that's what I like about you, is simplicity. Simplicity. Women don't have to wear cleavage-revealing stuff. If they're beautiful, that beauty will shine. But as I've said, America is into packaging. And that's another video topic. But packaging is becoming costly. How something looks is going to determine its saleability. There's a whole industry about displays and display cases and displaying and putting things out in certain locations of the store that grab you, and it works. Shiny new blings get our attention. But I look at a culture in the mall, and I don't see heart, and I don't see passion, and I don't see warmth. We as Americans have been conditioned, go earn your money and go spend it on yourself. Malls aren't community. I have a friend in Cleveland who was talking about some malls closing down in Akron, and he said he was sad, and I said, but why? He says, but a mall was someplace to go, and I said, yeah, and I'll give you that. But are people interested in you in those places? No. The temple of materialism, man. And I know I can do nothing about a jetliner blown to smithereens. I can do nothing about what's going on with Hamas in Iraq. And we can't fret and worry. It does us no good anyway. I live today, and all I can do is one step at a time. What I submit to my viewers, though, is how many of these dinglings going to the mall even care about what's going on. We take it for granted. We take it for granted that we can actually live in such a vain society where girls can flake through a mall all day spending their money. That the mall isn't shelled and mortared and shut down by artillery fire. Girls don't even think of that. And it's true. The more comfortable we are, the more stupider we get. I want to talk about this, and I do hound on this a lot. Some viewer wrote yesterday, Mr. Pacific, I have watched several of your videos, and you seem to be negative. I had a discussion with a viewer friend of mine in Michigan yesterday and said, what is negative and what is positive? They're both needed to make electrical current. If you just have a positive and no negative, you have no electrical current. That's why I did yesterday's video, Reality 101. Some people like to dine on fine wine and cheese and steak. They don't want to know that just outside the door is a bunch of emaciated children starving with all their bones showing. That's called being positive. A lot of people in America would rather spend their money and brag about their SUV purchase than be told the things that I talk about. My channel is not as popular as The View, and it never will be. Why? Because Americans don't want to hear this stuff. That's why. You're too negative. Really? I'm going to define negative. I think a show like The View is negative. I think the evening news is negative. They spin doctor and they lie to us and they tell us stuff they think we ought to know and don't tell us the truth. That is negative. That's not positive at all. What Barack Obama is doing in the White House is not positive. It's completely negative, but nobody wants to hear that. Women killing their children, aborting babies out of their own womb, that's negative. That's not positive at all. Feminism is not positive. It's completely negative. People buying SUVs and cutting me off and driving like turd balls when they should be thankful that they can buy such luxury, that's negative. All I see all day long is negative, and I simply comment on what I see. And to the guy who wrote that comment, he doesn't listen to all my videos where I do talk about good things that happen and good things that I like. It's funny, I grew up with a mother who always told me be positive. Her actions were not positive at all. She was abusive, she was verbally abusive, she was rude. Being around her was negative. her presence, the affect of what radiated out of her was negative all my life. She was not warm. She was not demonstrative. And I look at this stuff, excuse me, and I go, what is negative? The evening news has become entertainment to most Americans. And they ran that story yesterday, the news. The people that make their money in the news, you got to hear it over and over and over and over and over again about the down jetliner. Now, I'm not minimizing that, but this is where we're at. Pacific simply reports on his observations, his experiences, and just watching things. I always tell people my eyes and my ears don't lie. I don't spin doctor a thing. Do I wish my channel was as popular as The View? You better believe it. It never will be. I wonder if I'll even make it on The View. Maybe if I step on enough toes in high places, somebody will say, have you seen this nut job and whack job on YouTube? I would decline an interview on The View. Why? Because I don't want to be on there. Do I want to be a legend in my own mind? No. But I talk about things that are real. People that talk to me, people that take the time to contact me and get to know me know that my channel is keeping it real. Janet in Colorado writes, sometimes I like to contact the people on YouTube to see if they're real, and I have seen that you definitely are the real deal. Why? Because my channel is a channel that you can reach out and touch, for the most part. Pyramid, I got your message the other day. I will write you. Bear with me. I've been swamped. Just a shout out to you. Pacific is gaining a network of good people, different people, diverse people. Nashanda from Barbados wrote me yesterday. It's been a while. I was so glad to hear from her. I want my viewers to know this. I do think about, hey, how come so-and-so hasn't been here? If anybody knows where Whisker Child was, she was leaving California with her husband and moved to Montana, and I have not heard from her since. But I care as much as I can care. The women on The View don't care about you at all. Somebody wrote me and said some people on YouTube, all they care about is ratings. But I'm becoming very pleased with something. Yes, I want the views to go up. I'm human. But more importantly, I have a nucleus of faithful followers that are worth their weight in gold. Not a-hole viewers, but some intellect, big intellect, people that revealed me stuff I didn't know. Can I be honest? I was shocked. Several of you said, you're like your own Tom Brokaw. I liked Tom Brokaw, except for he was one of the spin doctors too. Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw, and Peter Jennings. I used to watch them like crazy, and I will tell you something, viewers. Ever since I was a kid, I was fascinated by radio and CB radios and AM transmitters and the whole microphone thing. And I didn't want to be a rock star, but I just loved radio and transmitting. And I loved watching the news. I used to laugh and think, man, I wonder what Peter Jennings, Tom Brokaw, and Dan Rather would do when the rapture happens. Good evening, everybody. A bunch of people just disappeared. I wonder if of course, they're all gone now. They're doing other things, retired, whatever. Now, what are they going to do when all this stuff happens that they can't explain? People keep writing me saying, I really hope there's a future for you in broadcasting or something. I do too. But if you got to play the game, they want me to go to 4 years of communication school and all that. Personally, I'd like to just break in and make it without all that, because really, I don't do everything perfectly. But that's the thing that makes this channel. This isn't a groomed perfect channel where I wear the right clothes and, you know, mute the button every time I got to go and clear my throat or go. This is a personal channel. The people that I meet on my channel are good people. People that have been through pains, rejection. They can touchstone with things that I'm saying. And that's good. And unlike Barack Obama, who reads from a teleprompter, I'm not reading from anything. If you just pay attention in life, you have plenty to talk about. If you need to have a script, then it's contrived and it's fake. The only time I have notes is when I'm dealing with facts and figures that I'm not going to technically remember. Sometimes I'll write a little note, just a bullet points to make sure I cover. So negative and positive, I'm going to tell you something. There was a movement years ago in America, think positive. And that was generated mainly from the women folk. The women folk that shop till you drop. The women folk that don't like to be told any bad news. The women folk that operate on emotions and always want to feel good. That being the foundation of that viewpoint, then we ask ourselves, is that a solid foundation? And the answer is no. I'm not interested in making Americans comfortable. To make the others comfortable in this tropic island nest. That's not my job. I don't feel that as my calling. I'm not an ocean liner where I welcome everybody aboard and say, sit in opulence, enjoy. And the people who get on the Pacific ship have said loud and clear that they're tired of all this stuff. Shout out to Deshaya Coleman. Thank you for your continued eye-opening stuff regarding the border. You're shedding light on things I didn't know. And that is a crisis. I will say it again. It's pretty sick when a guy can't get a foreign bride over here without difficulty, cost, and bureaucratic red tape, and this is going on. Unbelievable. And what is Barack Obama doing? Oh, the Republicans won't impeach me. Huh? Man, really? Will the real man with a real pair stand up and lead this country and get us out of debt and say no to all this illegal behavior down south? Sheesh. Instead, we got a megalomaniac at the helm, doing as much damage as he can. And I'm accused of not being positive. The minute I get in my truck to go to work this morning to drive a bus trip, I will see it. Things will happen to me that are not positive at all. People will drive in such a way it almost hit me, cut me off, no turn. That's positive? Why don't you talk about the good things in your life? I do, but you got to listen to the whole video, not the first 5 minutes. Do you think that the people that boarded that jetliner, you think they feel real positive when their plane was exploded in 36,000 feet or whatever? I mean, let's get real here, folks. If you don't want to listen to this stuff, don't. Go listen to more Britney Spears and more breast implant jobs and enjoy that. They get the highest number of views, so go over there where all the fun's at. Pacific knows how to have fun. He obviously didn't listen to my video when my Filipino friend and I went clubbing, to which we may end up going tonight if I don't get out of work too late. I just report. And I don't report what the media moguls tell me. I just report on what I feel is burning in my heart. Pacific has to learn, though, to mature himself. That I should not lower myself to the level of a fool in an SUV. And I should have the bigness in me to say, you know what, don't play, just let the fool go. Let him think he got away with it. It'll build more false confidence in him. And then one day, like a fly in a swatter, they'll meet. But there's still that male part of me. I'm going to teach him a lesson. No, you're not. What does the Bible say? There's 2 verses that are interesting. Do not answer a fool according to his folly. And another verse says, answer a fool according to his folly. Means calls for discernment. Sometimes you answer a fool according to his folly and use a little sarcasm and go, yeah, that'd be a good idea. Not. And sometimes you go, you're a fool. I'm not going to say a word. Give way to the fool. Let him slide right on past you. So like I told you about the woman that cut off my then wife and I in Aurora. I mean, almost hit us both in a crosswalk with me with the green. And it wasn't a bad visibility. There were no trees. There was nothing obscuring her view. She was just a fat, overweight, blonde woman who thought, I'm too important to stop. And this is Colorado in general. I see it all the time. She's sitting there flipping us off, and then she pulls out and hits somebody who had the right of way. I'm like, what part of stupid do you not understand, woman? My problem comes in because I want to see instant justice. It's like, Pacific, do you really want to see instant justice? What about the times you screw up? Would you like God to come down with a fly swatter and go, psh? And the answer is no. It's hard to be human. I said years ago, I believe in bite theology. I was at a men's Bible study in Akron, Ohio. And the one guy says, what is bite theology? I said, being human bites. And all the men started laughing. It's true. The biggest problem I have is with me. Not just all this other stuff I talk about, but sometimes I get up and go, God, have mercy, because I got to deal with myself today. And we all have that. We all have it. Can I have an amen in the house? I'm going to go eat breakfast and go to work. Mrs. Pacific signing off. Happy Friday! Bye-bye.